Hello again. Now, police are warning of serious disruption throughout the day as protesters target motorways in a demonstration over high fuel prices. Long motorway queues are forming already as rolling roadblocks have brought parts of the M4 to a standstill. Police have reduced the speed on the carriageway to around 10 miles an hour. Protesters mainly targeting three-lane motorways in Wales, Scotland, England as well. They're calling for a cut in fuel duty to help with rising petrol costs. Well, the average cost of petrol now 191.5 pence per litre, up slightly from over the weekend, and a rise of half a pence compared to last week, as you can see there. Meanwhile, the average price of diesel is now 199 pence per litre, a slight dip since the weekend, but it's continued to rise in the last 7 days by 0.1%. Well, joining me now is the founder of Fair Fuel UK, Howard Cox. Thanks very much for your time this morning, Howard. Do you support these protests?
I do support them if they are lawful and they do not interfere with emergency services. I was assured by that. I'm nothing to do with them. It's a social media driven one, a disparate group of people who have basically fed up to the back teeth with how much they cost to fill their cars, their vans and their trucks. But provided they actually do a lawful protest, I will back them.
I mean, we're all fed up with the high price of petrol, but punishing other drivers doesn't really seem to be the way to sort out the problem, does it?
Well, that's the point. I mean, what we're talking about, I understand from them, is that they're going on the go slow. So you can still get around at the moment in time, and provided they don't impact on emergency services and people going about their day, they might lose about 20 minutes to half an hour in the day because of these protests. But it's got to be brought home to the government that these pump prices are unsustainable and crippling the economy and crippling people's and small businesses' lives.
But going slow, as we can see in these pictures, means using more fuel, adding to the problem.
Yeah, OK, I take your point. We can go on about this all the time. But the government and their economic torpor and their inertia regarding doing anything about this, they've got to cut fuel duty by at least 20p. In Germany, it's been cut by 25p, in Spain by 20p, in Ireland 17p, and France 13p. Our 5p cut in the spring statement in March didn't even touch the sides. We have to recognise the fact that this is the commercial heartbeat of any economy, is fuel and logistics and travel. These are the sorts of things the government are not recognising, and they should be doing something about it. And a Conservative government who's not actually recognising this, they should be hanging their heads in shame.
Well, hang on a minute. Rishi Sunak has said he will carefully consider calls for a more substantial fuel duty cut.
What does carefully consider mean? It's been like this for a long time. I've been campaigning for 13 years. We've managed to get a freeze in duty since 2011. We got a cut in 2011 of a penny with George Osborne. We got a 5p cut this spring statement, just happened in 2022. But it's not impacted. We're still the highest tax drivers in the world. And I repeat, Germany have cut fuel duty by 25p. We need to do the same to get our economy motoring. Sorry about the pun.
Who's your frustration mostly directed at? Is it the government, or is it also the refineries, the wholesalers, those people who can also keep prices high?
Well, we've got three asks, and so in answer to your question, both the government and also the fuel supply chain. We've got three asks, and one of them you've already heard me say is the 20p cut in duty. Another one is to introduce a body called Pump Watch, which we think, because there's 37 million drivers and there's no consumer price protection for them. They've got no idea when oil prices go up or go down what they'll be paying in a few weeks later at the pumps. There's no logic. No one understands the calculation. It's completely at the whim of these big oil companies and large wholesalers. It's not the small independent retailers. They're not making a lot of money. It's further up the fuel supply chain. So we need a body called Pump Watch. And we've managed to get our third ask, which is the CMA inquiry, into the profiteering further up the fuel supply chain. Kwasi Kwarteng has written to the CMA to demand that inquiry take place and ask why that 5p cut in fuel duty wasn't passed on to drivers on the day of the spring statement.
It does strike me as a motorist that petrol stations are very quick to put prices up when there are issues like we're seeing at the moment, but it takes them a lot longer to bring things down when the situation eases.
Well, that's the rocket and feather syndrome. We've always seen this before for years and years and years. And that's why we need these bodies. We need Pump Watch. We need the CMA inquiry and making sure that inquiry is not a whitewash like the last one in 2013, which it was a whitewash. What we need is some serious teeth from this government. And let's get back to some proper Tory policies by cutting taxes to help people, incentivising the economy.
What advice have you got for motorists who are shopping around for the best price to fill up?
Well, in answer to your point about the fact of driving is using more fuel, etc., you've got to look at the various apps, petrolprices.com, organisations like that. You can see where price is the lowest price, etc. Supermarkets are still the cheaper versions, but they're not as cheap as they used to be because they're involved in much more being taken over by commercial entities that are more profit-driven rather than customer-driven. So I'm sorry to say, I'm afraid we're going to see oil prices continue to go up. I'm sorry to say that pump prices are going to remain high unless the government cut fuel duty now.
OK, we'll see what the Chancellor has to say in coming days and weeks. Howard Cox, founder of Fair Fuel UK, thank you very much.